Space, infinite miles of nothingness with the occasional planet. No one has ever claimed any of it, but since 1957, some countries of Earth have been trying very hard to do so. This is called the space race. It has broken countries' trust and has bonded countries' relations. The space race has become one of the greatest events of our lives, and here's everything you need to know about it.
As we speak, there are some huge changes happening in the space race, but first you need to know a few things. In our current time, we're in the second space race. The first started in 1957, when Russia launched Sputnik into space and it successfully became the first man-made object into space. It then ended in 1969 when the United States landed on the moon. This first space race has become a topic of debate for thousands of people arguing over the simple question, who won? This would take way too long to go over fully, so I'm going to give you a short summary of what happened. Russia was full of firsts, with the first object in space with Sputnik, then the first living thing in space with a dog in Sputnik 2. The dog never came back. They also had the first lunar landing, however it was unmanned and controlled from Earth. Even with all of these firsts, Russia is still considered by a majority of people to be the loser of this race due to one fact. The United States was the first to put a man on the moon. You can choose who won, but there will never be a full decision. Moving on to the modern day space race, there have been some big changes. Instead of competing, the United States and Russia are collaborating. There are also some new players in the game, including India, China, and Japan. When it comes to the United States, however, the space program is on a steady decline, pushing towards the private companies instead of national programs. Now we will go to Spencer, who will lead us off with the first story of the day.
Hi, this is Spencer Lankin. News brings us that the space race is still going on today. On the down low, the US and Russia have redefined their relationships in the space race by collaborating with each other instead of competing like the old days. We have Axel Morfin to bring us more detailed news on the situation.
Thanks, Spencer. I'm here at the NASA Space Center where I've been informed that since the government has cut the funding for NASA in 2011, that the Russia Space Center and NASA have joined both space agencies and put all the work towards the ISS, or in other words, the International Space Station.
Wow, where does this leave US and Russia compared to everyone else?
Well, that's funny. Since the United States government has dropped the funds in 2011, the U.S. has found itself dropping a few places down in the space race. However, many countries have now considered taking interest in the space race, which has led to more than 50 countries and private enterprises to take part of the space race going on today. The involvement of all these several countries has sparked a new era of space exploration. This has pushed countries to start pushing science and mathematics in their education system.
Axel, for that amazing story. Now we're off to our field reporter, Spencer Lampkin, for an exclusive interview with Mr. Radhakrishnan.
The ISRO headquarters in Bangalore, India. Let's go outside. I'm here outside the ISRO headquarters. Ooh. Look over there, it's Mr. Radhakrishnan.
How are you doing?
Good. Do you mind if I have an interview with you?
Sure, I'll just sit right here.
So, Mr. Radhakrishnan, when was the ISRO established?
The ISRO was established in August 15, 1964. Since then we've launched satellites in orbit and have done lunar explorations, and we have sent probes to Mars that is en route now.
Wow, what's the funding for your program?
We receive $1.1 billion yearly.
Very impressive. When was the ISRO's first satellite sent into space?
Well, we sent our first satellite into orbit using the USSR's rockets and launch pad on April 19, 1975. But in 1980, we launched our own satellite into space.
Very cool. This concludes our interview. Back to you, Adam.
Thanks, Spencer. During that interview, our other field reporter went to Japan to gather information about the Japanese space program. What did you find, Axel?
Well, Adam, the Japanese space program is called JAXA. It was established in 2003 after it seceded from the NASDA, which went from 1969 to 2003.
How much are they funded?
2.46 billion US dollars.
What are some goals for JAXA?
JAXA are continuing to send satellites into space. They're doing asteroid explorations and planning on a manned exploration of the moon.
Very impressive. Both India and Japan have shown how they're lending in to the secondary space agencies. Maybe one day they will catch up to the United States and Russia.
The United States was the undecided winner of the first space race when Neil Armstrong took his first famous steps. But whenever it comes to modern day NASA, there really isn't much left. Over the past years, NASA's budget has been going down $50 million a year. NASA can do a few projects, but if anything messes up, they don't have enough money to fix it. You would think that after the lunar landing, we would be taking such pride in our space program. But instead of pouring support into NASA, we are giving it to thousands of private companies. This might seem like a good idea because we are giving lots of people a chance to do something great, but in reality, if everything were united, it would be much stronger.
This newscast has given you this information. Now take this information and form your own opinion.